Well, welcome everyone to episode of the Tipsy Toe Drag Podcast. Yours truly, Clayton here, will be moderating this episode, and I'm joined by my regular co-host Cam and Trent, better known
You
as
betcha.
TK. So we got a big episode here. There's been a lot of action that has happened. Free agency time is always a pretty interesting time. I think everyone's glued to Twitter, looking at all cap friendly, looking at all the signings. So I won't spend too much time on the intro. We'll kind of dive in here. We don't have a lot of time, um, but I just wanted to go over kind of our schedule today. We're kind of going to quickly go over everything Oilers related, our signings, trades that were made, and all of that. Then we'll kind of look at some news around the NHL, some extensions that have happened. We'll take a look at some of the buyouts that have happened as well, a few trades. And then we'll get into the big ticket RFA and free agent signings that have happened in the league. So free agency, it's been pretty crazy so far this year. And I looked at Cap Friendly put out a tweet a little while ago and said that in 2020, within the first 2 hours, there was 22 contracts signed with a total dollar value of 94 million.
Jesus.
This year, 2021, 60 contracts, total dollars of 405 million.
Oh my god. It went up
And that's
that
in the
much?
first
Blew
2
it out of
hours.
the
Yeah.
water.
Crap, man.
Oh man.
Everyone,
Yeah.
we're in a flat cap era, and everyone wanted to spank the monkey everywhere. Jesus, that's so much money getting
It's a lot
thrown
of
around.
dollar bills.
Yeah, and you can just see how everyone was hesitant. No one knew what was going to happen with COVID and all that stuff last year, so everyone was pretty conservative. But just looking at those stats, people really jumped out the gate this year and signed their guys. So I thought that was kind of an interesting stat. Another stat too, and I took this from Cap Friendly as well a few hours ago, so it might have changed. But if we say the first 3 days of agency, 216 signings, and 938 million total contract dollars.
Wow,
Oh my god,
that is crazy.
that doesn't
Yeah.
seem like that seems like a little too much for a cap, flat cap era right now.
But I was actually looking quickly. I didn't have enough time. I wanted to see comparisons to see other years to see if that's a lot or not. But I think it's obviously higher than 2020. I'm not sure what it is compared to other years. But when you're talking flat cap, it does seem
That's
quite a
huge.
bit.
I wonder if it's because like so many contracts were expiring and a lot of players are like on bridges, so they're just getting off the bridge or they're getting off the ELC, so now they're getting those massive, big second contract, type of extensions.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So let's get into our favorite team in the league, the Oilers here. And front and center, this was the worst kept secret long time. Zach Hyman comes to the Oilers. He signs a 7-year contract, 38.5 million value, and an AAV of 5.5 million. He's got a no movement clause for the first 5 years, modified no movement his last 2 years. He's 29 now. He's going to be 36 when the contract ends, but he fills a pretty big need on the left wing there. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I guess like when we were mentioning before, or like when I was mentioning you guys before in a previous podcast, like he seems like the only player that was really available that could come in and have an impact. Landeskog never reached free agency. Then you have Taylor Hall, who we all know we wanted back in Edmonton, but wanted to stay in Boston. So then, really, what's there available? Like I guess like you could off some few other different players, top 6 forwards that probably would have been be able to produce more. But I guess if you look at the two-way game and the type of player he is, the forechecking, the hitting, the grinding, and all that stuff, maybe it's a good fit with him. But I don't know. I don't if you really think about it, compared to other contracts, fine. The value, the money is fine each year, but then it's long. And I know right now McDavid and Draisaitl have 5 years left on their contract, so it's like at the end of the day, if those two leave, who cares about the extra 2 years of Hyman? So I see why they did it.
Yeah.
My opinion though is I don't know why we went after him versus like a skill forward. I know like there's Puljujärvi, there's a chance he could turn into something special. But like, we've had so many grinders and type of forecheckers play on that line with McDavid, and yes, they had some success, but we weren't really winning games. Last time something worked out really well was maybe Maroon, but that was like Maroon, McDavid, Draisaitl that year, and then you put Cassian last year, and Cassian, it was like Who was it? It was Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Cassian, or who was the left winger last year with David
Oh
Cassian?
no, he had like Neil, and he had like the worst left wings in the league.
Oh,
like,
I know.
He had nothing to
so
work
many,
with. Yeah.
And so like I just like when you look at Hyman, like he's not skilled. He's not like an elite passer or anything like that. He's not a good finisher. He doesn't have a shoot first mentality. So like I don't know like what we're doing. Like maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, I would prefer to go after someone else. But I see why they went with Hyman.
Yeah, I actually like the Hyman signing. Like I said, we watched a lot of Toronto Edmonton matchups this season. Hyman, every single game I seem to notice him on the ice, kind of against like McDavid and stuff, and he, like Cam kind of alluded to, he might not be that flashy finisher, but I don't think we need more of those flashy finishers. I think we need guys that have more of a defensive minded kind of style to maybe go with McDavid's elite kind of offensive drive all the time. And
he Trent, that's I'm trying to say is like we need a sniper. Don't you think you need?
We got Draisaitl. He's been sniping. Look at Puljujärvi. I think this year he'll bloom into a sniper. And I think Nuji could shoot some pucks here and there. McDavid, of course, could score at any given opportunity on the ice. Hyman is kind of dirty. He gets in the nitty gritty areas, man. And he's going to be digging out pucks for McDavid. He's going to be getting dirty in the corners and stuff. So I think he's going to create lots of opportunities for McDavid instead of McDavid have to create all these opportunities for his whole line all the time.
Yeah, if you can have, if he's on the top line with McDavid and you have Puljujärvi, if he can keep his game, he looked like he has a wicked shot, and if he keeps shooting, then you got Hyman there who's kind of like going in the corners, getting the puck, driving the play. Yeah, I think it could be a pretty good line there. We're just gonna have to see how it all plays out.
I think it's tough. Like you look at Puljujärvi, he's that forechecker. He's he played like an elite forechecker last season. So like if you're gonna have two of those on the same line with McDavid, that just doesn't work out.
I don't know.
I think it could. Yeah. I think it could work out. I think it's an improvement over everyone we had. So
that's true.
And if it doesn't work out, I mean, look at the options you got. You could put Draisaitl up there with McDavid. You could put Nuge up there with McDavid. You could put Nuge and Hyman together on the line with Yamamoto. You got like an up-team dozen amount of combinations and permutations you could have for the top six right now. I think sky's the limit. I think training camp will kind of flush out which line is going to mesh best together. If they want to kind of reunite the Draisaitl, Hopkins, Yamo line that was so great in the end of the 2020 season there. But I think time will tell which kind of chemistry meshes best together. But I think we're gonna have two very skilled top six lines.
Yeah. So moving on, Ethan Bear gets traded. There's been a lot of chatter on if this was an overpayment or not. So first of all, Ethan Bear got traded for Warren Foegele from the Carolina Hurricanes. He's a left. I guess he looks like he's a left wing, right wing, but he would slot in on the left wing here. He's 25. He needs a new contract. He's arbitration eligible here. His last year, his contract was $2.15 million. What do you guys think about trading Ethan Bear, a guy who kind of was the whipping boy right at the end of the playoffs there, which was unfortunate, all the stuff that kind of came out there. I think it wasn't warranted. Like he made one bad play there, but what do you think of the move there, Trent?
Obviously I was a little bit shocked. Like I've seen on Twitter and stuff all the rumors popping up that if Edmonton was to re-sign Tyson Barrie, that there'd be a potential for a Ethan Bear trade. When I first seen it, I was like, oh my god, like here we go. But then I looked at the other side of the trade. I'm like, okay, we're getting Warren Foegele back. I mean, he's a pretty good sized forward. Like he's 6'2", like 200 pounds. He's 25. He's fairly young. He's kind of played that third line depth role. But he could put up some points here. So I think, Edmonton needed to round out the roster. Like they had this elite D-core coming up and all their prospects and stuff coming up the pipeline. They had Ethan Bear. They knew that, if they wanted to re-sign Barry, that there'd probably be potential to move Bear over Bouchard, which for sure I would do. And they brought in this skilled, depth forward, I think, to play. Like you said, he's a bigger guy. He plays heavy game. Plays a really heavy game. But he could put up, 30 points maybe in a regular season, depending how many games he plays, which is, I think, what Edmonton needs. Because last season, our third line, I think, if there was one guy that scored over 10 points, I'd be amazed. So I think this is great. I think Edmonton needed this. Definitely, I didn't want to see Bear go. He was a fan favorite. Everybody loved him. Definitely after this last playoffs, it was unfortunate to see kind of the stuff that unfolded there from the media kind of bashing him and stuff. And I didn't like to see that happen to the young kid. I mean, God, can you imagine though? He made one mistake and then he's getting called out and stuff. And so I think maybe there's a little bit of heat around there. I don't know if that probably wasn't the reason why Holland moved him, but it was unfortunate for the kid.
Holland panicked.
Yeah, I hope he's gonna do great. I mean, he's gonna be great. I hope he doesn't turn out to be a Petrie player here, where we trade away that talent. But I honestly think he still might only be a second pair defenseman. But I know Cam, you probably got some good take on this trade, so I'll let you take her from there. But
well, if you look at it value-wise right now, fair trade. You're getting that forechecking, heavy third-line winger that actually has some speed to his game and plays a PK. But the biggest thing we're forgetting with Warren Foegele is that who was the center in Carolina? It was Jordan Staal. He was stapled to the left wing of Jordan Staal for the last 2 years. And so that really helps when you have a player like Jordan Staal as your center. That, no matter who you are on the wing, you're going to get better stats and better play and better possession.
George Staal had a big year last year.
Big year, and he's a possession guy. Very strong possession guy. So that's why the metrics and the stats of Foegele, possession, is very high. Is because of Staal. Staal creates that. And now, sure, you could have someone else playing with him that might not have been that good, but Foegele was a good complementary player to him. Is he going to come to Edmonton and produce like this and play like this? Who knows? It depends who the center is. When we look at giving up Bear, I think there's a few things there. I'm not happy with the trade. I would rather keep him Bear. I think this whole Larson thing I think Holland didn't have a plan B. He thought he had Larson in his bag. Didn't happen, and he panicked. And by him panicking, he went after Barry. And then he gained Barry, and then he's like, well, now I need someone bigger to play right D. Well, okay, we'll bring in CC and dump Bear. What should have happened was, why didn't you just bring in CC? Instead of bringing back Barry. Barry didn't really have great stats playing with McDavid or Draisaitl. All his points were coming on the power play. But when you look at the actual, the underlying, the Corsi and all that stuff, and what's the other one that's some big ones? The Fenwick and stuff. Bear had way better ratings for that playing with McDavid than Barry when you're playing 5 on 5 or 5-5. So I there's a few options you could have went there. You could have kept signed CC, keep Barry, could have rocked Bouchard, played more minutes. I see why they brought Barry back, because they want some type of veteran leadership. He did mesh with the team. He is a producer, you can't deny it. He's producing points. But if you want to have some stats in there, some analytical stats, you gotta look at both ends of the spectrum. So at the end of the day, I'm not happy with Bear being gone, but I hope Foegele is able to produce and do as well without Staal to really make this trade be worth it, or at least be fair, because Bears can go to Carolina and he's going to be playing a third line right D, and now he's going to have more drive than ever to show Edmonton that you fucked up, just like Petrie did.
At least I am a little more excited this year about our bottom two forward lines, though, for sure, because those have they haven't been able to figure out a lineup that can produce any offense at all. It's always McDavid and Draisaitl, and those are your scoring lines. But it would be nice to get a third line scoring line or something that can pitch in a bit, because it can't just always be those two. But we were talking about Barry here. We bring him back. We signed him to a 3-year contract. He has a cap hit of $4.5 million. I think, if you look at his stats, he led all defensemen in the league. Lots of times points is a big determinant about what your contract's going to be. He was number 1, 48 points last year. There's some obvious flaws in his defensive game. Cam, you kind of already spoke to it, but what do you think about bringing Barrie back?
Taking everything else I set aside, I still feel like Colin, you panicked to get him back because he had Larson in his bag. But when we actually think about it, it gives, at least we're not putting Bouchard into that situation of okay, Bouchard, Barrie's not here. You're going to be that, that number one puck moving D man. We're going to give you all these minutes, and, they might have rushed Bouchard a little bit too much in NHL if they did that, if they didn't bring back Barrie. But so if you look at it from a power play standpoint, I think it's good to have Barrie back. He didn't sign, it was cheap. I'll say it's a cheap deal. 3 years, 4.5. Yeah. A little longer than expected, but, I have a feeling within 2 years he'll be traded. So the last year of his contract will probably be traded. I don't know. I guess when you really think about it, it had to be done. We had to bring someone back. You couldn't risk going into free agency with no rate D other than really Bear.
Yeah.
So I guess he had no choice bringing him back. I hope he plays better defensively. I know his stats weren't the greatest last year defensively. Produced a lot offensively. I don't know if Barrie really he struggled. Our power play last year was a struggle fest, and even though he produced really well in it, that power play was inconsistent.
Yeah,
it was very inconsistent. So I don't know if I don't think it falls on him. I just think it falls on Tippett and the power play.
They got to change up their style for sure. Too predictable.
Yeah, because if you're gonna have you need to Barrie is a good PPQB, so you need to let him control it more, and it's really hard with McDavid. So I think they need to switch it up and allow Barrie to control more, so they can actually have a better PP. Because look at what happened in the playoffs. Barrie was actually doing well on the power play in the playoffs, but no one could finish it, and McDavid was holding the puck way too long. Whereas if you just let Barrie handle the puck a little longer, because he has good hands and he can do it, I think it might open up space because they're going to put more focus on Barrie at the point, allowing McDavid and Draisaitl to get a little more open.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we saw a lot of Chase on that top unit too, and I know that he's effective there, but it never changed. They never seemed to try anything else, and we wanted them to try maybe a Pulley every once in a while, and he'd get a little shot, and then it was you never saw him on there again. Yeah. Or I'll see. I think I mentioned this a few podcasts ago that I wouldn't mind seeing maybe I don't mind Draisaitl and McDavid staying out there forever, but changing up. Getting a little more use out of your second unit a bit too.
Agreed. I think they should mix it up. I think they should try switching up that, taking Nugent Hopkins off that first unit power play and put him to the second unit and trying to do their best to split it evenly.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure. Because you need a deadly power play. And if you have two deadly power plays, then you're never going to be at that position where you're fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Relying on McDavid to Draisaitl score, but just to kind of. Yeah.
Well, and speaking about power play quarterbacks, Ceci, Cody Ceci, we Edmonton brings him in here. Surprisingly, a 4-year deal with a cap hit of $3.25 million. He only made $1.25 million last year in Pittsburgh. He had a decent year. What you hear about him in Pittsburgh, he generally played pretty good. I'm surprised they brought him in on a 4-year contract. It seems kind of high. But what's your take on this, TK?
Yeah, I seen this signing and I was like, I didn't like the term or the money. It might have been a little bit of an overpayment, a little bit, maybe a year or two too much. Looking back kind of in his history, I mean, he's with Ottawa for 6 years there. He put up some decent offensive numbers, actually, but he was super dash. But I guess you could take that into account with being with Ottawa. Then he came to Toronto, had a really rough season, actually, points-wise and stuff like that. He was still positive, though, so he's a +7. And then last year with Pittsburgh, he started to kind of bloom. He's getting back up to the ride on the horse there. He was, 17 points? He was a +18. Bigger body guy, so I think he's going to be kind of like a Larson, but not really like a Larson. I don't know if he's going to be as effective as a Larson was. He's 6'2", 210. He's only about 27 too, so he's still fairly young. I actually personally thought he was older than that when I heard they signed him. So I was kind of surprised to see that, crap, he's only 27, so he could just be kind of hitting his prime here potentially. So, I don't mind the signing. I guess time will tell kind of where he pencils in. I'm guessing he's probably going to be paired with Keith on that second pairing defenseman. But I think he's going to be a good kind of, bigger defender, shutdown guy, hopefully to stop kind of, the chances against our goaltending duo here. But
I don't like this signing at all. It's too long, too much. If you're trying to bring him in as a Larson clone, like, good luck.
Yeah.
CC is nowhere near Larson. He doesn't have the ability to break up plays like Larson. Doesn't hit as much as Larson. He isn't as sound defensively as Larson. He had a good year in Pittsburgh, but let's not forget about his 6 years prior to Pittsburgh. He was dog shit defensively.
Yeah.
So you're said, like, I hope he plays like he did in Pittsburgh, but, like, come on.
Yeah, it just really feels like you're banking on just the 1 year.
That's true too. Yeah.
And so I think I'm really curious what the reasoning was to go after him. I guess at the end of the day, he did play a lot of PK. He was that first unit PK with Dumlin in Pittsburgh. He was better. I'll say that significantly. He was really good last year defensively. Way better. I don't think we bring him for his offensive. I know when he first came in the league, he was supposed to be that, great skating two-way defenseman and stuff, but, a lot of players kind of similar to Larson. He was drafted 4th overall, but they never really gravitate towards that. So, at the end of the day, it's too much money, too much term. I hope he proves us wrong and plays it. He is young. He's still 27.
Yeah.
So there is a chance for him to still continue on what he was in Pittsburgh. Granted, he was playing for really bad teams of Ottawa. Yeah. But then there was a couple seasons there where the Ottawa was made the Stanley Cup or the semifinals, the Eastern Conference Finals, the 1 year. I think that might have been his second year in the NHL. 14-15, was it 14-15 or 15-16 when that happened?
I can't remember. Probably back in the
it's either
Carlson
his second, third year.
Yeah,
either his second, third year in the NHL when that happened. Since then, they've been pretty bad. Actually, what's the funniest part about the signing is now our top 2 rate D in Barry and CC is the exact same top 2 rate D that Toronto had 2 years ago.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
And like that did not work out
we all
well
know
for them.
That ends. Yeah.
No.
So I just find it funny that Holland's just trying to follow the Dubas footsteps of bringing in CC and Bear.
Yeah, I think if you told any Oiler fan that Bear would be out and Cody CC would be in, kind of thing, like,
I can't. This is where it comes down to me. I get it. You want a bigger body. It makes sense. Yes, we need a bigger body because you can't have 5'11" Ethan Bear there with a 5'10" Barry.
And
then
look at Logan Stanley that we played against in the playoffs there, who was really hard to play against.
So I get why they brought CC in, but CC is only 6'2". It's not like we're bringing in, like you said, Logan Stanley or Jamie Oleksiak or re-signing Larson, anything like that. So I hope he has a heavier game. I hope he plays a heavier game. At the end of the day, it's nothing we can do about it. I really hope by these 2 signings, it helps. And same with Keith. I hope that really helps Bouchard grow because I do think Bouchard has the potential to be that top 2 all-around defenseman. He just needs to be given that green light. And so far, Tippett, which I'm not fond of, hasn't been able to give some of these young players that green light. He did with Bear. Yeah. He did with Bear last year, and Bear's great rookie year. Then this year, he made a couple mistakes, and that's like, oh yeah, you're gone now, buddy. Yeah, no, you can't do that at the Oilers. Like, come on.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, yeah.
Well,
Sorry, yeah.
Go ahead,
like you said, Evan Bouchard only played about 14 games last season with Edmonton. I actually thought he played less, but he did play 14 games. But that's way too small of a sample size. Like, and I think what Keith always was alluding to in his pressers, like, yeah, he wants Bouchard to be that, night after night defender that's going to be in the lineup. So I hope we see that this year.
Yeah, it sounds like he'll be a regular.
He better be.
So kind of going from a risky contract to one that's probably pretty decent. I think people are pretty happy with it. Derek Ryan comes over from Calgary. We signed him to a 2-year contract, AAV of 1.25. He's known as a pretty versatile, like kind of a third-line center type player. He's been pretty good for a number of years. Right-hand center guy, which is nice. And he's pretty good on the draws too. and he could even pitch in with some points. Like I was going back and looking at some of the points that he can put up. Like he put up 38 points 2 years in a row, one with and one with the Flames. So he can chip in offensively too. What do you guys think about this one?
I think this is a good depth signing. We haven't we brought in Turris last year, and that was just a fail of a signing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
And that falls on Turris. That's a fault on Holland. I would have done the same thing, go after Turris.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It falls on Turris for not being in proper shape, not training hard enough, and not wanting it. He clearly just wanted a payday, another payday. That's it. Because he didn't. He could tell he didn't do the training. I think with this signing, it's good because you know what? It'll allow McLeod to come to play full-time minutes, hopefully, if he does have a good training camp. And then you can put McLeod with, Fogle and Archibald and have that as your third line. And then you have Derek Ryan playing the fourth line, but you also have Derek Ryan playing the heavier minutes and stuff as a fourth line center. Yeah,
absolutely.
Plus, he's also right-handed centerman, so I think it's a good signing. It's a good depth signing.
And another thing I was going to say, too, is if you're talking about Turris, that's a guy who has always kind of been a scorer, kind of a points guy.
Yeah.
Likes playing the skilled game on the top two lines, his whole career. And then he comes in as the third line center. Maybe that's not quite his style, but Derek Ryan knows his role. And, he's going to come in and he's going to play it well. Yeah. I hope.
I have to agree. Right now, they got a Petzelman fourth line with, Shore and Casson or something, but he'll be that great, third, fourth line center. He could probably move up and down the lineup a little bit. He's really good even strength. He has really good even strength percentages. Just looking at JFresh, his war percentile card here. He is really, really good even strength. So I think we need someone like that in our bottom six that could actually stop the bleeding, play good even strength minutes, not allow other teams to score on us. And like Clayton alluded to as well, he could put up points too, back-to-back 38-point seasons. That's pretty great. I mean, we need that depth scoring, and this is a great addition for a pretty cheap contract.
Yeah. You could tell our bottom six is going to be completely different because before they really went for the heavy, bigger players, and that's why you had Jujar Kara and all that stuff. Losing Jujar is going to suck because he when you had that line at Archibald, Jujar Kara, and who was the other one? Was it it wasn't Cassie, it was Archibald. It was Archibald, Jujar Kara, and someone else.
This year?
I can't remember. Yeah, last season. That line when it was when they were clicking and they were having a lot of possession and they were controlling it all the time, and then Jujar got
I remember that.
And kind of lost.
I forget who was on the wing. Yeah.
But I think if Jujar honestly had more consistency, I don't think Derek Ryan would be here. I think Jujar would have been re-signed as that fourth line center. So I think it's a good to change it up because it's last 2 years, no one's done shit all on their bottom six, and now it's time to do something. I really hope we have one of the younger guys come up and try to fight for Devin Shore's spot or even Zach Cassian's spot. I want to see Marody and Benson and maybe Lavoie come up and put some pressure on these NHL players that I'm coming for your job because we need some younger, more skilled in that bottom six.
Make it competitive. Yeah.
And it's kind of situated that way too. We kind of got that competitive player under these NHLers that are in too. So I think it's a good situation. One of our vets that's not going to be coming back this year, named James Neal. He wasn't the real deal for the Oilers. He kind of had a couple. I guess last year was a pretty hard year for him. I know that he had COVID. I don't think he's really even recovered yet. Just things that I've read. But they bought out his last 2 years of his contract, and in the next 2 years we get cap savings of 3.8, which gives us a lot of wiggle room. There was rumors maybe he was either James Neal or Koski bought out, but it just makes way more sense to buy out James Neal. I don't know if there's a lot for us to even to add to this. I think it was just something that needed to happen. He wasn't he wasn't an effective player. He wasn't even really a roster player to really, and we can't keep that big cap hit that he had on the books. We needed to buy him out. I'm not even really gonna talk about this anymore. I think it's kind of just everyone knew this was going to happen.
And going back to the whole Neal Lucic trade, that's why this trade was made. This trade was made specifically not because you think Neal is going to have a better season than Lucic. This trade was made specifically because you can buy him out. Lucic has a non-buyout type of contract. And
so, no
is that what it was?
Clause, everything. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yes. So that's why you can't buy him out. So that's why Calgary has no choice to stick with him for the next.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So,
no goalie changes for the Oilers.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh man.
I'll start this off since I've been most vocal about it. I am not happy with this. You have all this cap space, and you go and spend it on. Well, I'm not going to fault them. A lot of the play signs is good. It's the
That's okay. We're used to we've seen like Zach Hyman and McDavid have their dogs barking there and have to go let them out on the calls there. So this is just normal.
Yeah, it's just normal.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Trent?
Like Ken was saying, like we had all this cap space. Probably goalies was one of our top priorities. I mean, we re-signed Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get it. The guy battled hard last year. He had great stats. Like he was one of the better goalies in the NHL. I gotta say, probably last year statistically. He's getting old. He's 39, but then to not even. I mean, I know Holland. I think is still working the phones with Koskinen here. We all seen the Columbus rumors today pop up about a potential trade with Jonas Korpisalo, which would send Koskinen back along with one of our first round draft picks next year. And I think it was Samorukov was the rumor. I think that's been squashed as of recently, per Rashog here on Twitter. But I think Holland's trying to do what he can with Koskinen to see if he can get something back for him. I think it's best he waits until maybe closer to trade deadline. Kind of see how
he's got no choice now.
Kind of see how the two fall out and maybe make a play kind of later down the line. But Cam, what do you got to add to that?
To go on what I was saying there is he started this whole cycle off of getting Duncan Keith. Why is Duncan Keith a necessary person to get over a goalie? Like you $5.5 million for or $5.3 million or whatever it is, $5.5 million for Duncan Keith. Come on, why wasn't your focus at the beginning before this whole free agency to get number one goalie? Why weren't you trying to focus again on number one goalie? And then he talks about it afterwards, after all those trades or all the signings in that trade. He's like, well, like we don't have the cap space, so you can't really go and get a goalie when on the cap space. Well, you had the cap space and you go and spend it. So like, come on, Holland. Like I'm just. He is. I don't know if he's getting pushed by ownership.
I hope so.
Higher ups, McDavid or Draisaitl. But some of these decisions, and the number one decision signing their trade is Duncan Keith, and he should have gone a goalie over Duncan Keith and used free agency to get a player.
Yeah, fight.
Or let Chicago buy out Duncan Keith and then you sign him in free agency. So like, I don't know. I'm a little annoyed that we didn't upgrade our goalie because like you see how well goalies and D are in the NHL and how far they go. Look at Montreal. They didn't get to the finals because of their forward group or how they're how so much chemistry it had. It was that defense and goaltending that really
defense and goaltending 100%.
Every year
carried him.
2 years ago, Columbus, or not 1 year when Columbus swept Tampa Bay. The same thing there. Goalies and defense have really helped. Every year it's goalies and defense, and the Oilers are like, oh no, we're gonna try build that top six. We're gonna try outscore what we let in. So I think Holland, honestly, this is a year where he had so many different goalies, so many options available, and he royally screwed it up. Like he probably didn't go after a lot of these goalies in free agency because he didn't have the cap space and he knew it. So like,
and then it sounds like he went hard for Kemper, and then but the
is a bidding
too
war.
high.
Yeah. So like I don't know what to say, man. Like who can they really go after when it comes to trade deadline? What goalie can they realistically trade for? Matt Murray, who makes more than Koskinen? No.
Seattle's got a few, maybe, but
Korpisalo, no. Well, Seattle has
Grubauer,
Drieger, and Drieger. Why would they trade any of them? Decord's gonna be AHL. They purposely selected Decord from Ottawa because he's AHL. He's waiver eligible or non-waiver, whatever. He can't go through waivers.
He's ELC.
So he's going to be in AHL. He's going to be in AHL playing the full season. They signed Drieger. They're not going to sign him and trade him. Like, they're not going to do that.
Oh yeah, they already. I thought they had a third goalie in there, but maybe they
traded back to Colorado or back to Washington.
Vincent Vanacek. So that's what I'm thinking of. Sorry,
There's no number one goalies available around the NHL. Unless somehow Korpisalo turns into God mode this year. But he's going to be playing fiddle to Merzelkins. So I just don't know what we're gonna do.
Well, besides goalies, just kind of the last thing to touch on our Oilers segment here. Any other moves that you guys expect besides, not talking about goalies, but any other kind of moves you guys think before we head into training camp?
I think they still need to sign a lefty. They can't go into the season with Chris Russell. Yep. So I know there's some rumors out there that they might go after Ryan Murray, and I really hope they do. So I'll say that.
You've brought him up a few times.
Yeah, I think he'd be that.
That's your boy.
Solid defensive guy that can help take away some of the, he's kind of like, he's just very sound defensively. He plays a strong game. He doesn't hit a lot, but he's just very good defensively, and I think he would fit that role well, especially on the PK and taking some minutes away from, maybe Nurse or something.
Yeah, I'd like to see him bring in Ryan Murray. Yeah. We've seen kind of the rumors recently pop up here in the last few days about, I think 5 teams were in on Ryan Murray recently here, so it's kind of like, it's probably going to be a bidding war. I know Oilers are getting kind of tight for cap. They got kind of the LTI here with Clefbaum, but they do have to still re-sign Yamamoto and Warren Fogle as well. A couple RFAs there, right? So they still gotta sign them. So we're getting kind of tight for cap, but it'd be nice to bring in Ryan Murray on the left-hand side just to kind of round out that D-core. And I'd feel a lot better if they had Ryan Murray in there instead of like a Chris Russell or Slater Cuckoo.
For sure. Little bit of upside there too. But anyways, let's move on to kind of our general NHL discussion here, kind of see what's been going on around the league. And the first one I wanted to bring up is Ovechkin signing his big 5-year contract extension. I know, Alex has always said for a long time that he wanted to go back to Russia and play probably a few years there to finish off his career. And maybe he could in his 40s or something, but he's 35 now. He signed a 5-year contract. Annual cap hit of $9.5 million. But, Washington really wanted to bring him back. But the big thing and the exciting thing about him coming back for 5 years is, can he overtake Wayne Gretzky's goal record? So Gretzky, his goals was 894 and OV's at 730. So he needs 165 goals to pass him, which would average out to about 33 goals per year. And if you know anything about Ovechkin, he scores more than 33 goals a year. He is older. Can he do it?
I think he does. I mean, it's Ovechkin here. The guy's kind of like a tank, right? Like, I think he's playing for that right now. Like, like you said, the guy doesn't score less than 50 often. I mean, I know this season I think he only played 45 games in the shortened season. He scored 24 goals the season before.
I feel bad for him.
Yeah, you feel bad for him.
I do too. The COVID stuff.
Yeah, it's true though.
The COVID stuff, but also like
it altered
shortened seasons.
Yeah. He's literally missed a full season of NHL because of the blockout year, and then COVID, and then this past season. He literally could be like within 50 goals closer to Gretzky.
I think that's why he probably wanted to sign that 5-year and drive towards that because like we were saying, this year he only played 45 games. Year before 68, he scored 48. So like I think if you give him an 82 game season this year, I think he's going to score 50 to 55 goals probably. I mean, he's done that a few times, actually a lot.
And he just doesn't.
Yeah, like he scored. The one season he had 65 goals. Looking back at the 07-08, like holy crap! But man, that guy could still shoot. He, like you said, he is getting older. He always sets up on that power play, and it seems like every time he can find the net. We've mentioned this, I think, prior here, but he seems like he always scores.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Everyone knows that's where he sits, and and they get the one-timer to him, and he scores just every time.
I hope he breaks it. I think his contract's terrible. It's long. It's clearly Washington wanted back, and he wanted to come back because of to try to break this record. I think that's the main reason. Yep. And unless the only way he's going to break this, he needs a couple good years. These next 2 years here, he needs to get 40 plus. He needs 40 plus each year.
Because he's not going to be like 30, 38, 39, 40 scoring
30 goals.
Ton of goals. Yeah. So
he's got to go balls deep in these next couple years, and just getting as much goals as possible. Because say he comes out this next season, full season, gets 55 goals. Boom, that helps out. Next year gets 40. Now he only needs like 20 to 25 each season. Rest of that after that,
you can milk that.
Yeah.
So I hope.
So another big extension that was signed, Braden Point, 8 years, AAV of 9.5 million. Very important player to that team. He's a huge playoff performer. I was looking at his stats from the past 2 years. Like 2 years ago, he had 14 goals, 19 assists in 23 games. And then last year he was a point per game in the playoff. He's a big game player, really important guy. No question they re-signed with his contract, right?
Oh yeah, they gave him the Kucherov contract, so they had no choice.
And Vasilevsky too.
Yeah, he's worth more to that team than Stamkos. So
he's their future. Yeah, so he's definitely their future. He's from Calgary, Alberta, actually, so kind of a local boy, which is nice to see.
It's kind of crazy to see at 9.5 when you consider everything else. Like you look at Matthews, I would take Braden over Matthews. Look at Marner.
Yeah.
Then you look at Jack Eichel, and like 9.5. I think unfortunately for Braden Point, the flat cap screwed him over, because if this was no flat cap era, he probably would have got like 10.5.
Yeah. I feel like Braden Point is like that guy that you put him out at the end of the game when you need, and you trust him in every single situation.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have to defend a lead, you're not putting Kucherov out, but you might put Braden Point out, right? Like he's that guy that every coach loves because he's just so responsible. He's just such a good player.
Up points. Yeah.
It's a no-brainer signing, and he's worth every.
Great two-way game, very good. Mm-hmm. I still remember him from when he played with Team Canada there, and we were juniors, and he dominated every single situation.
He plays the full length of the ice, you bet.
Yeah. So another player that got signed, he got traded and signed, Buchnevich. So New York Rangers, they had some future planning to do. They got a lot of studs in the making, lots of people they got to sign in the future. So they opted to trade him over to St. Louis. So they got Sam Blaze, a 2022 second-round pick from St. Louis in that trade. And then St. Louis signed him to a 4-year deal, $5.8 million a season. I really like Buchnevich. And, he had 48 points, 54 games last year. He had 46 and 68 the year before. Like he's improving every year. He's a big dude too. He's 6'3". He doesn't play like a real heavy game, but he's a bigger guy and he can put the pucks in the net. What do you guys think?
It was a great signing. They lost Schwartz, so they had no choice, on their top 6 winger. And they're about to lose
Tarasenko.
Tarasenko, yeah. So I think it's a good signing. He's going to do well. I think no matter who he plays with, he's going to do well. And plus, he's going to have the opportunity to play with Ryan O'Reilly or Braden Shen. So, he's good. And he's a great player, man. That guy's he's so skilled. So it's unfortunate. I'm really curious why Rangers. I know they were worried about his RFA because he was RFA with arbitration rates, so he could have fought for more money. But I know and then plus they have to worry about Zibanejad next year with the Rangers. But for St. Louis, man, they did a great job getting this player from Rangers, and signing him now to I honestly think that's a good contract. That's a very fair contract. 5.8 for 4
definitely.
years.
Yeah, no, it's good value for your money. He puts up big points, like you said. I actually personally thought that when they were getting Butch, that Tarasenko would be gone the next day or something, but it's still yet to be determined right now. They got actually Butch on the left wing with Shen and Tarasenko for a line, kind of here, just looking at daily face-off. But yeah, that's a good top 6 player, probably even a top line winger if you wanted. Pretty good value for your money there. So, like you said, he's an ascending stock right now.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen with Tarasenko, but I really like that top 6 in St. Louis. Yep. So another guy that was a trade and then sign. So this is Connor Garland, and so it was a huge trade with Arizona. We saw Louis Eriksson, which I was really surprised. Jay Beagle and Anton Roussel going the other way, but Vancouver got Connor Garland and Larson. But Connor Garland, really good player for Arizona last year and the year before. He's been a solid player, can bury the puck. They signed him to a 5-year contract. AAV of 4.95. Is the term and the cap hit, is that about right for this guy, or what do you guys think?
I personally like Connor Garland. Kind of getting to some fantasy hockey stuff. I had him this year in my fantasy hockey league, and everybody was like, "Holy crap, you have Connor Garland!" He was putting up big points. I mean, he had 39 points in 49 games on average. So over an 82 game span, that'd be about 65 points. So that's like almost Nuge numbers, like Nuge or Hyman even. So he could put up some big numbers. He's 25. He's a smaller player, 5'10", 165 pounds. So he's pretty tiny. But boy, is he a good player. Like he's fun to watch too. He's a gamer. Yeah, like Cam said, he's a gamer. I think this is another guy that could be just up and coming, and I think Vancouver looks a lot dangerous with this guy on their roster.
We'll see how it turns out. We always know how players play in Arizona. Then they go to switch to a new team, and they don't really carry that offense. I think Garland, Garland's a gamer. I still remember that game against the Oilers where he took the puck off the face and scored. so and then 2 minutes
any way to score.
2 minutes later he came back on the ice and he had the freaking the stitches on his lip or something. I don't know. He was definitely cut open from the puck. But yeah, I hope he produces well. I hope he does better Arizona in Vancouver, because he's got some better supporting cast out there. So I think, to be honest, when you look at the deals that are going around the NHL, I think this is fair. He's young, so yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's not like he's 30 years old getting this contract. He's 30 years old around that age. I'd be like, oh, that's probably too long, too much. But yeah, he's at his prime year. He probably was either he tapped out last year and he'll probably be the same type of player. In any case, he's a top 6 forward, and he really does balance that line, or the top 6 group in Vancouver. So
yeah. So there was a smaller signing. Keith Yandel with Philly, just a 1-year deal for $900K. He was bought out before that with Florida. Everyone knew that one was coming. I think he kind of struggled a little bit with the Panthers. He didn't play every game in the playoffs either. What do you think he can do on Philly?
Win a cup.
Yeah.
Win the cup?
Win a cup. That's what Philly looks like, man. Philly looks like they're going for the cup, man. Like, look at all these.
They do.
Look at all these moves they're making and everything, and Yandel going there. I think it's a good fit. $900K
cheap.
for Yandel.
Very cheap.
Guy,
yeah.
It's cheap and
very cheap.
I would take Yandel every day of the week over Duncan Keith. So that is a hell of a deal for Philly. So I hope they utilize it, because Yandel clearly a signer because he thinks that there's a potential chance.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of carrying on with that, I hope, Yandel's getting up there, right? He puts up freaking assists out his ass, it seems like, every freaking season. But the guy's got an Ironman streak going on, 965 game Ironman streak. That guy never misses a freaking game unless he gets benched, basically, right? So that's pretty freaking nuts. So good for him, right? He's only 34 too. I thought he was actually older, to tell you the truth, but he's 34.
Yeah, he seems like he's been in the league forever. I guess he has been in a long time, but he seems like he's 40 or something.
God, I thought he was. I honestly thought for a second there he was 37.
No, he's 34 only. So to have that Ironman streak, good on him, man. I hope he.
He's 100% hunting for cups, because he signed 1-year deal here, and then watch, no cup. Okay, I'm gonna go.
But look at that Phillies team. They got a pretty deadly little lineup here. It's pretty nice. They got depth everywhere on their whole lineup, and then we've seen them bring in. I think Martin Jones is a backup, so that was kind of my guy there in the Seattle thing.
They had to do that. They had to do that. Carter Hart is a clear number 1, but he needs some support there, and he didn't get it last year.
100%.
But man, their team looks so much better.
Yeah,
team looks so much better than Oilers, man. Provorov, Ellis,
look at their decor. Look at their decor.
Yeah. Ristolainen, Yandel, Braun. Oh my god! And then look at their top 9. Yeah. Dude, that's an unreal top 9.
It is. That is a well put together team.
Yeah. Oh man, Couturier.
Yeah, I think they can do some damage.
Oh yeah, I'm a little jealous.
I know we were gonna talk about a big signing here in Zach Werenski. I'm gonna bring him up a little bit later, but Tony DeAngelo signs in Carolina. There's been a lot of drama around him over the past 6 months or a year. Some of his in his on ice or on off ice behavior. He allegedly got in an altercation with Georgiev, and as soon as that happened, he was basically off the team after that. There's a lot of teams that didn't want to touch him, but you knew eventually, just from the points he was putting up, and he was a pretty big gamer for a few years. You knew someone was probably going to sign him. And Carolina jumps the gun, signs him to a 1-year, $1 million deal. Any thoughts on this one?
Well, it's kind of funny. You have D'Angelo with his whole history and everything now playing with Bears.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everyone wants to question. It's funny. Like, everyone wants to question. So, like, okay, so why is Carolina doing this? Where's their integrity and all this stuff? And it's like, no one's, like, questioning Carolina, really, for signing D'Angelo, but then everyone's questioning Montreal for drafting that Logan or that kid. So it's two-way standard. So like, yeah. So like, I don't understand. Like, everyone heard about the history that D'Angelo did. The racism and also a bunch of other stuff that he did when he was on Rangers. So it's like now Carolina signed him 1 year. I haven't seen really many people question this.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I hope he turns around. I think he will. I think he understands he has to. Otherwise, the kid it's not a kid, but he's just not going to make it NHL.
Yeah, I heard I saw on Twitter someone said that I think Bear got a text from D'Angelo, and then just said that he appreciated the text that he got from him, and that Bear believes in second chances for people, and was basically looking forward to it. So, and what else is Bear really gonna say? Like, he's not gonna just, he's not gonna call him out. But
I find that ridiculous that a reporter in Carolina would ask him that question. Like, if anything, in a situation like that, that question should be asked towards D'Angelo himself. What are you going to do about this? How are you going to handle this? Not asking a player that just got traded there. Oh, so how do you feel about, D'Angelo coming over here? And
imagine that, his life got turned upside down going over to Carolina. Bear thought he'd be in Edmonton. All of a sudden he's in Carolina, a new team. And then he's having one of his first interviews and they ask him that. It's kind of a rough question.
It makes no sense. And you bitch about the Edmonton media, but that's terrible. Whoever that guy is, that's terrible.
If I had a rubber hose, I'd beat him for sure. But yeah, I like D'Angelo. Like, he had that hell of a season with New York. I thought he was going to be one of their top 2 defensemen there. He put up 53 points in 68 games. And then all this stuff kind of came down, and it was like, holy shit. But then Adam Fox kind of stepped in and definitely was a clear front runner for that. So I think Fox is going to get a big contract coming up here. But we'll see kind of how it unfolds here with D'Angelo and Bear kind of in Carolina. But Carolina's got a pretty good D-core even without Hamilton now too. So it's not bad. It's a good signing. It's cheap. It's 1 year. See what happens.
Yeah. So Patrick Laine, he signed his qualifying offer with Columbus Blue Jackets. It's just 1 year, $7.5 million. It was. I think it's kind of been a rough year for Laine. You can say what you want, but his on ice stats really sucked. His on ice play sucked. He was in the doghouse with Torts. It didn't take too long. I'm not surprised it didn't take too long. I don't think that system was really picked for Laine in the first place, but I just wonder about his attitude a little bit. It seems like he kind of didn't mesh well with Winnipeg, and then he comes to Columbus, and then kind of didn't really mesh well there. What do you think? What do you think comes out of this?
Well, Winnipeg took away his Fortnite, so I see why he wasn't happy.
And that's really tough on a guy, right?
I think he had no choice to sign that QO, man. Like $7.5 million for the season he had no choice to sign.
Yeah, no kidding.
Columbus is going to move him at trade deadline, so we'll see what they get in return. But he's just not he doesn't seem committed to the NHL.
He doesn't.
He's not driven, that's for sure. Like, he was an elite winger and Jets, man. He seemed like he had a little more fire under his ass there, but in Columbus, like he was like low grade dog shit, man. Like, he was a -29. Like, holy crap! I had him on as a keeper, actually. I think on one of my fantasy teams, and I was just like, oh my god, like
you were hanging on him for so long.
Because I'm like, oh my god, he's not doing anything. He had like 70 points one season in Winnipeg and stuff, and he had 44 goals.
I should have
traded him. I don't know. I guess
I told you when Chris was all over it that one year or that one season there, and you're like, no, I'm keeping him, man. He's in Winnipeg. You know, he's playing with Wheeler and all that stuff.
was,
like, dude, trade
but 12 goals for Laine. I know it's a short season,
like,
but
that's
12
bad.
goals.
Yeah,
he's struggled.
He underperformed substantially, but I don't know.
I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he's depressed. Maybe he's just not happy. He's away from family and all that stuff. You know, Finland, Canada, and now United States. But he needs to prove something this next year with Columbus. He needs to prove it that he can play and do well, so he can get traded to an actual team that he might actually be willing to commit more for. But he needs to show that commitment starting Columbus.
But if you can get him, whichever team can get him committed and mesh well, they got the right system, the right coach. They got a stud.
He'll be scoring out the yin-yang.
No question.
With
Torts
gone too, right? It might actually open up a nice opportunity for him. He might not feel like, right? Like,
yeah, that was not the right coach.
No, but he's not going to stay in Columbus. Columbus there's nothing to do there. It's just like Edmonton, so he's going to leave Columbus no matter what.
Well, good thing we don't have any listeners in Columbus.
Sorry, Columbus.
So I'll move on here and look at a trade here that happened that I think surprised a few people. The Fleury trade to Chicago. It was basically for nothing. You know, he won the Vezina Trophy last year for the best goalie in the league. Put up elite numbers with Vegas over the years. But he did carry a $7 million cap hit on his contract. Vegas needed to shed that. They got Leonard there too. You know, so you're not surprised that they traded him. It's kind of surprising that it was basically for nothing. Any thoughts on this, guys?
I think the fact that he didn't even find out until like he read Twitter that he was traded is this complete fucking dog shit. Like on Vegas, like what the fuck is their management doing, man? Like this guy was a Vezina candidate. Like come on, like and you treat him like that. Like
he was a winner.
Yeah, winner.
Dude, they've been treating him
like
this started all last year in the playoffs. Before they showed lack of respect.
Oh my god, the
full lack of respect.
He is elite. Like look at his numbers he put up. Like he is elite. Like I hope like I don't think Edmonton would ever have a chance of getting him. It'd be amazing if they could, but imagine him in Edmonton. Like, cause he always performs in the playoffs too. Like under pressure, under the gun.
Well,
but
he's talking about like not wanting to play anymore. So if he retires, like how's that work?
Because there's no penalty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's no penalty to Chicago, so it's a win-win for Chicago. But I meant, like, people are saying he's going to retire then sign with Pittsburgh. I'm like, he can't retire then unretire.
No, I don't think so.
If I'm Chicago and, you know, if he's not going to play with you, maybe try to work a deal out with Penguins.
Yeah. Because Jerry was bad. He was very bad. Yeah.
Because I think Fleury said I think a lot of rumors out there is he only wanted to play in Vegas or back in Pittsburgh, so...
Interesting.
That'd be kind of cool to see him back in
Anyways, going about the trade, I think Vegas, they had no choice to move him. The way they did it was very greasy. I feel bad for Fleury in that terms, but, you know, like, hey, man, they cleared up $7 million cap space for nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's fair.
Yeah, and so we have another trade as well, another goalie trade. So Kemper went from Arizona to Colorado, and Arizona got Connor Timmins, a 2022 first-round pick, and then a 2024 conditional third. I won't go into that. It's basically if Colorado wins the Stanley Cup. And we talked about Darcy Kemper because the Oilers sounded like they were going in hard for him. He's a pretty good goalie. He gets injured quite often. That's kind of the risk that you get with him. What do you guys think? Did Colorado just pay the price it cost to get a decent goalie that they really needed, or was that an overpayment? What do you think, Cam?
I think it's overpayment, but I think this trade had to happen for Colorado because I bet you this is where the whole first round pick, Samrukov and Koskinen type of offer were coming around, because I think that's what Oilers offered Arizona was like Koskinen first and that Samrukov guy for Kumper, and then Arizona is like, well, if you want to trade Colorado, you got to do this. So they gave him the first and Timmins, which is like, in my opinion, probably better than taking on a cap hit for Koskinen, because Timmins actually played in the AHL last year. I think it's overpayment, to be honest, for Cumber due to his injuries and everything, and he's not signed after the season, so he literally could have, like Colorado could pay this price for him to still walk next year. But Colorado's in the cup, needs to win the cup, and they're in that cup mode right now. So if anyone's going to replicate a style or even type of season that Grubauer had, it would be Cumber, because like if he's not injured, he plays a quality.
Yeah, he puts up really good stats. I mean, even with like Arizona, I think it was last year they were playing Colorado in the playoffs, I believe, in that one series. He had like 50 some saves, literally stood on his freaking head against Colorado. Like I just remember watching that game, and like he's a great goalie. Like he could win you games single-handedly if given like opportunity. Like even looking back a few years ago, he had like a 2.2 GAA with a 928 save percentage in Arizona. This year he regressed a little bit, but I think he could still be that quality goalie that Colorado needs, maybe to push as that cup contender. So I think too. I think it's great. I think they overpaid on the trade though, for sure.
Yeah, and Colorado just it's their window. Like they're one of the favorites to win the cup. They were last year, and they will be next year too. So they needed to get that goalie when they couldn't Grubauer. So no question they had to make it. It is a steep price to pay. But the one last little thing here before we move on from this, I thought it was kind of funny that Ryan Reeves got traded from Vegas to New York Rangers, and this is basically like to go up against Tom Wilson because he beat up Panarin and Buchnevich.
Just a countermeasure, yeah.
100%. I can't wait. I'm 100% gonna mark my calendar for when that day comes, when Rangers and Lightning, or Rangers and Capitals meet each other, because I want to see those two right off the first face-off line up beside each other.
It might be like a bench brawl too, because wasn't there a bench brawl that game? Like it was all out like war on the ice, like.
It's just.
That was a crazy game.
It was like Edmonton and Calgary there, like goalie battles and everything. Like it was pretty intense, but I think Reeves and Wilson, that'll be entertaining for sure. I'll have to check the calendar. I think the schedule is out just to see when they play each other, but that'd be great. I think they're like a division rival too, so that'd be great. Cheap contract.
Yeah. No, I thought that was pretty funny. But anyways, the next thing I wanted to go through is let's take a look at some of these big UFA signings that have happened here. And as I alluded to earlier, Zach Werenski, I think technically he signed as a UFA. It wasn't technically an extension, but he re-signed with Columbus Blue Jackets. But I kind of wanted to look at the top two defense here first, then look at the top two forwards, and then top two goalies. But Zach Werenski and Dougie Hamilton got paid. And so Zach Werenski, 6 years, $9.583 million AAV. He's going to be their guy now with Jones gone now. And then Dougie Hamilton, you knew he was going to get paid. I just can't believe that Carolina shortchanged him. He was such a good player for them. But New Jersey Devils, they took out the checkbook and they signed him to a 7-year contract, AV of $9 million. So he's getting paid too, but he's been one of the better defensemen in the league for a few years now, especially when he went to Carolina. He's just been so good there. These are two great signings in my opinion. What do you guys think?
I think Columbus had no choice. If they wanted to, they traded with Seth Jones. Zach Werenski is an all-around guy for them. He played better minutes for them than Jones. He played in every situation. I felt he's like the better player than Jones. And so in order to keep him around, that's a good contract for him. And it's necessary contract for him to sign to stay in Columbus. Yeah. And so I'm happy with Columbus getting that done, because if they lost Jones and then they go and then Werenski's like, I want out too, like that's just that sucks.
They'd be bleeding players, so they had to offer him, I think, big money to keep him around. They just needed to keep guys there, right? So like you said, Jones left to Chicago.
Big money.
They let Atkinson, I guess they brought back Voracek too, but still it seems like it's kind of like a mass exodus out the door. So paid him big money. 6 years. So that puts him, I think, to the age of 30 once that contract kind of expires. Or is he 24 right now? I think his birthday's in July. Yeah,
23. Yeah, either he just turned 24 or 23. I can't remember.
He just turned
24.
He's
He's
24.
24.
Yeah,
Yeah.
11 days ago. But so he's getting some good money though. Like, holy crap, that puts him in the top 3, I think, right now for AAV for defensemen, if I remember correctly. So let me just verify that. I'm pretty sure he's like, it's like Erik Karlsson 11.5. It's Drew Doughty at 11,
Yep.
and then Zach Werenski at 9.58. So
He's
right
third.
now. Yeah, exactly. So
wow. I find it funny. I think isn't Seth Jones is he
next
9.5?
at 9.5? Yeah, and then you got like
Yeah, I just like that. I know the years are different. Like, I think Seth Jones is he 7 years, but I just like that Werenski signed for
more.
like just a sliver more than Seth Jones.
But that's an elite class.
And you got a year less, and a year less too.
And a year less.
So he can get a bigger payout, or at least another big contract in the 30.
You betcha. But
yeah, exactly. And these are the two big D-men that got signed here. But what do you guys think about? I think Adam Fox is probably smiling pretty hard right now, and maybe even Darnell Nurse.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, you see Hamilton getting that money in New Jersey, which is a good fit, but it's kind of funny seeing him get paid almost or a little bit more, same amount of money as Subban there. Huge.
Yeah.
But Nurse got to be licking his chops, man. Like, I think rumors are out he wants a 4 or 5 year deal max, and that makes sense because if the team isn't going to be. If Draisaitl and McDavid want out before, in 4 or 5 years,
then he might want to make a different decision,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. So this honestly sucks for the Oilers because, they're in a pickle position now. It's either pay Nurse this big money, which realistically he's probably worth that $8 to $9 million a year, but it's like, do you want are the Oilers willing to give him more money than Draisaitl?
I've seen that take. That's a good take too, because I don't know if he's worth over Draisaitl's 8.5, but. I mean, Nurse has been just a workhorse, man, but it's tough to say. I mean, he's probably going to be wanting like the $9 million mark, like kind of similar here to what Hamilton got, but because I gotta give Nurse credit. He had a hell of a season. He scored a shit ton of goals. He put up major points. He played a hell of a defensive game, but he's still not on that first power play unit. So like, I don't know if he could pay. I guess I could see the kind of argument for both sides of that, but we're gonna be in for a hell of a ride here, Edmonton. Yeah.
I think so.
And same with Adam Fox and the New York Rangers. Like, New York Rangers they're gonna have Capo Caco coming up as RFA. They're gonna have Advantage as an upcoming UFA. A few other players, Georgiev. They're gonna have Lafreniere in 2 years.
That's why we see Buchnevich move.
Yeah. So they're preparing because Adam Fox, Norris winner.
Yeah.
He's gonna be like, I want my $9 million per year.
Yeah, he was voted the best defenseman in the league. So you've seen these big contracts coming up. He's like, well, if I'm the best,
exactly,
pay me.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna look at two forwards now that were some of the bigger contracts that were signed. Brandon Saad in St. Louis. I think Colorado really would have liked to have him back. He fit in really well there. He's a great player. He signed a 5-year contract, AAV of $4.5 million. And then the other one I wanted to look at too is Philip Deneau, signed with the LA Kings. I know that Montreal loved him. He was, and it's funny because he's a guy that he can put up a decent amount of points, but he just really like when he hits playoffs, he's just an elite shutdown guy, and he was really good at that in the playoffs here. And he signed a 6-year contract with LA with an AAV of $5.5 million. What do you guys think about these two signings?
I think the Deneau sign in Los Angeles is a good one. Deneau got paid. That's what he wanted. He wanted the money. He clearly went there for the money because Los Angeles is like still not 3 years away from being like any type of playoff team. And if they want to keep Kopitar around and try to get some more years out of him, I think it's a smart decision to bring Deneau in because it takes away Kopitar from playing those heavy minutes in the PK.
Well, and Kopitar is such a good defensive forward too. Like, those are some good, two centermen that are hard to play against.
Yep, exactly. So I think it's a good sign there. Sad. Honestly, that guy, I thought he's older, man. He just seems like a lower type of player when you're.
I think the same thing too, man.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I think he entered the league and looked like he was 30, so that might have something to do with it.
He's had up down seasons, up down, up down, up down. He's somewhat consistent, I would say, in terms of productivity, but he could be better. He had some really good years, some really bad years. I think for what St. Louis is going for, it's clear that they want to bring in a couple more top 6 forwards in because they lost Schwartz, they're gonna lose Tarasenko, so it's a good idea to bring in Sad. I think he'll fit well there. He's got that shoot first mentality, and it'll really align with say Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think he'd fit in well in their top 6. I think this is the inevitable is going to come. I think Tarasenko's going to get moved. I think Butch is going to switch over to the right wing, and even like you said, like a Shen, Saad, and Butch Navich line or something there for St. Louis. He can put up good points, like you said, but he's kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. He had a few good over 50-point seasons there with Columbus and Chicago. He came to Colorado. I think he had high hopes. He scored some good goals, so he had like 15 goals, I think, last year with Colorado. I think exactly
his playoffs were pretty good
playoffs,
too.
And I think Colorado wanted that. Like I know a few Colorado fans, like Bryce. Hopefully, he comes on the podcast here soon. I know he was hoping. I think they would have re-signed Saad there just to have for the playoff push and stuff. But so he'll be great for St. Louis.
Yeah. And then moving on to the big goaltender sightings. So we got Philip Grubauer signed in Seattle. I was a little bit surprised by that. He's my keeper goalie in my league, and I was a bit disappointed, but I don't know. I'm not really sure what I feel on Seattle. I think, Colorado really wanted to bring him back, of course. But Seattle was able to get him for 6 years, $5.9 million. He played outstanding on Colorado. He has elite numbers there. He's kind of always played on really good teams though. He played on Washington, and then he came to Colorado, and last year, like, Colorado was one of the best defensive teams there, so it makes his stats look better. So, I don't think he's quite as good as his stats show, but I think he's still a decent goalie for Seattle. And then the other goalie is Linus Ullmark. He signed 4 years with the Boston Bruins, AAV of $5 million a year. He's a decent goalie too. Someone that I'm sure the Oilers at least thought about too. But we were stuck with the cost and cap hit. But he comes into a pretty good Boston Bruins team there. And what are you guys' thoughts on these two?
Well, Seattle, I was thrown off by going to Seattle. I didn't think Seattle was going to go after him. So I guess that it's clear with these signings that Seattle wants to compete. They want to show they can have a Vegas type of inaugural season. So Grubauer going there, I'm surprised because Grubauer wants to be number one, and he's going to be fighting for those number 1 minutes with Drieger. Sure, he's getting paid more, but it's going to be a battle there. So I guess healthy competition. Grubauer got paid. He went to a new city, new fresh city. Maybe wanted that fresh start as well. Who knows? You don't know what to think when a new team comes to the NHL like this. Plus, Seattle's pretty, aside from their downtown core being pretty poor compared to that everyone's saying due to homelessness and all that the city overall in the suburbs, it's really nice.
Yeah. So, I think it's a pretty nice city to live in.
So I'm kind of that's probably a big factor in why you want to go there too as well. Moving away from the Mile High Club and
I don't know. I'm still kind of surprised though. I'm like, shit. Like, Colorado was so close. Like, everybody's saying they're these big cup contenders this year. They were pretty much they had the odds to win the cup, right? And then they come in and get eliminated in the second round, kind of the way it goes. And then he doesn't re-sign. Like, they were so close, I think, too. Even this year, maybe next year. But like you said, their window is closing pretty quick. I'm still kind of surprised he doesn't sign.
I think it's clear, we talked about before. I think we always assume players want the cup.
Yeah, maybe they really don't.
And when you look at Grubauer, maybe money was a factor there. Maybe Colorado offered him $5 million a year. But at the end of the day, it's I think it's clear that some of these players they're looking at at themselves and at what they want, and maybe a cup isn't part of it, but they maybe see a cup in the future. Who knows?
And that's what you get when you're in UFA. You get to make your call. Whatever you want, you get to make that call. On the surface, they're going to say they want to win the cup, but there's a multitude of factors that play in their signings. So I was surprised too that he went there. Because you had what better place to play than Colorado, really, to try and win a cup. But you never know what the decision behind it. But moving on from that, I'm just curious what some other notable free agent signings you guys had. I thought maybe I'd start with TK here. Just give me a few that you thought was pretty interesting to you.
Kind of looking. So we seen Ryan Suter get bought out there recently by Minnesota, and then he goes and signs this pretty good sized contract with Dallas actually. So it's a $3.65 million AAV for 4 years with Dallas, and I mean, holy crap, man! This guy is just raking in the money still. Like, he just got bought out.
No kidding, man.
Signs this pretty good freaking dollar contract. Like, holy crap! Like, wow. But I guess he's maybe still got some gas in his tank, right? I mean, I haven't really looked too closely at Dallas's roster to kind of see what their needs were. Maybe they did need a little bit more veteran of a defenseman there. He's aging 36, like he's getting up there. Who knows how much he used to be a pretty good, producer for points and stuff. But so right now,
he's been solid for so long.
Mira Heiskanen there, kind of top line, I guess, and then they got Kling there with Lindell. So they actually got a pretty good core now. But who knows what he's gonna do? That one was kind of. Yeah, it's kind of surprising. Yeah,
I know. He got a huge payday. He got bought out early. I thought he would be the guy who would sign cheap to a contender, some team that's trying to fill out their decor there. I'm just surprised they went to Dallas. I'm not saying Dallas is terrible, but they're not a contender.
They went to the finals there. Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. I guess. Yeah.
It's almost like he went there because there's no state tax, so he's making more money.
Yeah.
Maybe he's all about the money.
Yep.
And then kind of another one I seen Hoffman sign in Montreal, 3-year deal worth $4.5 million. I still don't know what Hoffman, like he seems like you just never know kind of what you're going to expect out of him. Yeah, like he's still kind of got that big question mark beside him, so it's tough to say where he's going to kind of pencil in Montreal.
He's penciling in Tatar's.
Yeah, Tatar's still out there, isn't he? UFA, like he'd be a good contract.
Yeah, he's not going back to Montreal.
Yeah, he'd be a good contract guy. But looking back,
Hoffman is filling that spot in. He's taking
so I mean, he's a good goal scorer. I mean, looking back a couple years ago, 2018-19 season with Florida, he put up like 36 goals in 82 games. He played the full season. Like he was a good goal scorer guy. He kind of regressed here, 29 in 1920, and then this year with St. Louis, he only put up 17. He quietly put up 36 points in 52 games though for St. Louis. Kind of under the radar, like didn't seem like he actually did too much there. Like very, very under the radar. But that's kind of my take on Hoffman. I don't know if 4.5 is probably a decent amount to offer him, but.
Well, I'm just looking at daily faceoff just for the lines here for Montreal, but like their top 6 is pretty decent. Like Tyler Toffoli, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield. You got Hoffman, Kotkaniemi, Gallagher, Drouin, Jake Evans, and Josh Anderson. Like that's pretty solid for a top 6.
That's actually really good. Yeah.
Yeah, but Kotkaniemi really needs to like progress to be that top 6 center. Because he's very inconsistent as you watch him, and so if he isn't able to be that top 6 center, then they kind of have a hole there with losing.
Yeah, and then they had Stahl. Did they had Stahl, right?
Yeah,
Stahl.
Stahl. Yeah. And then kind of one of my last kind of like contracts that were signed. Not really well, but Mikael Granlund re-signed with Nashville. 4 years, $5 million. I don't know if he's worth that kind of money. Yeah. That's why I kind of was like, oh, frick. Like, holy crap. Like, he kind of got overpaid. Looking back, he kind of had a few mediocre seasons, I guess. he used to put up the points. I mean, like looking back to 17, 18 seasons with Minnesota, he was 69-point guy, 67-point guy. He kind of regressed here. And then came to Nashville. He had a really rough season there in 18-19. I don't know if he's worth $5 million. I personally don't think he is. Like I said, he's a smaller guy. He's like 5'10", 185 pounds. Doesn't seem to be able to produce like he did in the past, though. Like he's 29, so... Yeah, like
Granlund, I always, like sometimes my value of player always goes back to like their fantasy, because I remember him in our fantasy league, and Granlund was just so good for a number of years in Minnesota, and I just always have that in the back of my head. And he still has that potential, but it's like, he was doing so well in Minnesota, and then he went to Nashville, and then his offense just dried up quite a bit. He struggled in the year that he did get traded, and he's kind of just been mediocre, I guess. I think at early last year, I think it was bone dry for offense, but I think his second half, he really picked up his play and did pretty good. And I think the playoffs, he was decent too. So that's probably why they circled back and did sign him. But $5 million.
Well, I think they probably weren't able to find really. They didn't think there'd be any other like top 6 forwards like in Nashville. So
it's tough to he still has value, so it's tough to replace that, right?
And like they already traded away Arvidsson, so it's like, okay, well maybe we'll bring him back. Yeah. So.
And what about yourself, Cam? Any notable free agent signings?
I think I'll start off with Corey Perry and Lightning.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one.
He's like, well, if I can't win without or playing against him, I'll just join him, type of thing.
Yeah. 2 years in a row playing the Lightning.
Yeah.
Loses to them.
Yeah. Can't play him. So he's like, okay, let's make it 3 in a row. So I found that kind of funny signing.
That is pretty funny.
Works out for them, cheap.
Perry I think it's win-win for sure.
A lot of drive in him and stuff like that. It's good contract, and he still has game in him. So like he's not gonna produce like he always.
He's a good vet.
But
I think it seems like he wants to win a cup, unlike his second half Getzlav.
Yeah, I know. So I found that one really good, really like just pretty funny and good signing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is a good signing.
Next one is the Schwartz to Kraken for 5 years at $5.5 million.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. Like that sign right there just proves that Kraken wants to compete. So now they're gonna have Schwartz. They're gonna have Eberle,
Yanni,
and so like you got Wenberg there for second line center, Yanni Gord for first line center, Donskoy. I think it's a good signing for Kraken. Man, and he's still 29. Schwartz still can play. He had some couple tough injury years there, but he is a top 6 left winger. So I think he'll mesh well in Kraken and really provide some good offensive.
They definitely need that depth. I think they need some kind of scoring drive, like because with Eberle kind of and Gord for like your top 2 most offensive players, like you definitely need a little bit more. But like their D-core looks good. They got good goaltending now. So like Cam said, they could be pushing actually for a.
It's a decent team they put together.
Agreed. And then the last notable one here is Alexander Edler to the Kings for 1 year. This one threw me off. I'm like, the guy's 34, 35. Yeah. He wants a cup and he goes to the Kings. So the only thing I could really think of for this type of deal was like, you know what? All right, I'm gonna go to Kings, play really well, then let them trade me at deadline, retain half, so I can go to a cup contender and he can kind of have like a choice. Of
I guess so. Point. Yeah. That is a good point. Yeah, because he can get the minutes there, and then he can prove himself and get. And then
he can choose which cup he can make. Kings put me on the block, puts him on the block, and then he can see which team looks like a team that can win the cup. Instead of signing right now in the off season with a team that looks like he'll be winning the cup, but maybe come trade deadline they might not.
So he's going to land in Edmonton, then you're saying, right? Yeah. But he's kind of our left man.
He would have been a good. He would have been a good fit in Edmonton, but I still think it would have been too much.
Oh, for sure.
Look, he signed for 3.5, so
he's 30.
So I think that was another unique signing there, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And just kind of the last thing I want to go through and just get your thoughts on is, what kind of actually going through just everything in this off season. the Seattle draft, the entry draft, and then UFA. Who's kind of looking like they're coming out ahead? Like, who's kind of the clear winners, and who are some clear losers in your guys' minds?
I think, well, I wrote a little list here. So, like, Boston, Vancouver, Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia are clear winners in my mind. I think, Boston went out and got Hall. It's re-signed Hall. They got a few other bigger players to come in and fill some roles up with them. Yeah. And, Allmark as well. And so I think they're a clear winner. Vancouver, they went out. I'll give them props. They got OEL, they got Garland, they changed their D around, they got rid of Schmidt, who had a really terrible analytics year, but it was still, still a good D-man. So I think, with another year of Demko, got rid of Holtby, I think Vancouver had good traits, clear winner. Mm-hmm. Seattle, obviously, you can't go wrong with being able to sign some big ticket free agents there and, come and really settle that team in order. And then Chicago, I don't know what Chicago's doing, to be honest, but I'm going to say they're a winner just because, they managed to clear cap space for a 38-year-old with Edmonton.
Yeah. Got the Jones brothers reunited.
And then
yeah.
And then they got a win for win. They got a win-win situation with Vegas by taking on Fleury. Fleury comes back and boom, they got number one, or B, he doesn't, and then you got that cap space.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. That's an interesting team. I really don't know what that team does this year, to be honest.
And then the last one is obviously Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Man. That team really changed their whole dynamics through all these trades. So clearly them. And then
that's one that I think about too, for sure.
And then my three big losers are Toronto. They didn't really do anything.
They lost.
Today they brought in Andre Koss or whatever. Maybe if he has a really good bounce back season, he could be that Hyman type of player. But
they lost Hyman. Yeah,
and then the Calgary, they didn't really do much. So in my opinion, they're losers. Plus, Calgary's always a loser in my mind.
Absolutely.
And then Buffalo. If there's any loser in this league, it's Buffalo, man. That team really, they're like, screw it. We're gonna screw with Eichel, not let him take that procedure to get healthy, and all this shit. Oh, did you see that today too? Some news just came out about an hour ago with Buffalo. The agents of Buffalo are putting pressure, the agents of Eichel are putting pressure on Buffalo by calling out the whole process. They were told that the Eichel would be traded before the free agency started. Nothing happened. I guess there's something in there in this note stating that the Buffalo Sabres doctor approved the surgery, but Buffalo, the management and team isn't approving it.
Ooh, more drama.
So a lot more drama's coming out, and the two agents decided to bring it out in public because Buffalo's not getting back to them.
Oh man, what a shit show that team is, hey? Like
terrible.
Yeah, for sure.
Terrible. Yeah. So just going off that'll be an interesting topic next week. But yeah, those are my clear winners and losers, and so I know I'm kind of curious what yours are too, Clayton and TK. So let's see what you guys have.
I'll take the lead here. I think Boston definitely upgraded. I mean, we don't think Raska is coming back, so they signed Linus Ullmark. They brought in Derek Forbert. They brought in Nick Foligno, Eric Halla, Thomas Nosek. They're two of those guys from Vegas, and re-signed Hall. So I think that they're very, very good team still, very deep. You look at the Kraken, like we just talked about, they had some big signings. Grubauer, they got Drieger, good combo. They re-signed some scoring offense in Schwartz. They have Wenberg up there. I think they could be competitive in the Pacific Division. So like we kind of alluded to, the Pacific Division is fairly weak. So I think that they could be a competitive team in there. But given that, Vancouver did improve. They improved drastically. So they brought in Ole Ekman-Larsson, Garland, like we said. They got Yarrow Halak there with Demko. They still got Quinny Hughes back there. And then like Pedersen, Horvat, Brock Besser, JT Miller, Nils Hollinger. They got a good core. I think that they improved quite a bit this year. I'm biased too, so another team I do think improved was Edmonton Oilers. I don't fucking know. They're fucking
Heck no.
Even though we lost Larson.
No.
Yes, we lost Larson.
No.
We don't have Clefbaum.
No.
We re-signed Barry.
They're not
we got
clear winner.
Hyman. We got Fogle. No. We added huge forward depth here. I mean, we have the two fucking reigning Hart Trophy winners here, McDavid and Draisaitl.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, TK. Your homerism isn't coming out. You can't let that delusional back in your head say that.
It's a slight upgrade. It's a slight. I'm not saying.
No.
Yeah.
It's a slight.
Improved.
There you go. It's a slight upgrade. It's not a clear winner. It's not a clear winner. It's not a clear winner. You know, if they would have gotten number one goalie, I would have been like, okay, fine. I'll take that and be like, okay, they improved significantly. But when they have that defense that honestly, in my opinion, doesn't look any better than last year, and then you have a goaltending that's gonna be the same shit show as last year or last 2 years,
it's not over yet though. It's not.
I wouldn't say it was exactly a shit show on goalies, but defense.
But the offensive upgrades, I think, will offset that defensive failure because we do have a lot of defensive offensemen now in our forward core. I think that will help substantially. So there you go. Yeah.
Well, the funny part is they kept saying 2 years ago like we had the most defensive forwards in the league. You know, you had Jujhar Khaira that plays PK. You had other players that come in that they had on the wing that were really PK.
You need even strength though. You can't just look at PK. You got to look at even strength defensive stats too. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So that's the only change they really made was those.
I think that'll help stop the bleeding, and I think that's why, given that's kind of my hot take tonight.
Yeah, your hot take is hot shit.
While these guys step outside and settle things, I'm probably gonna wrap this episode 5 up. It was a lot to cover. It's a little bit longer than the other ones that we've been doing, but there's been so much content. It was lots of fun, boys. I'm not sure when our next one's gonna be.
Next week. Yeah.
Monday
will work.
Yeah,
we might have a guest
Tuesday
coming on, so that'll be great. Get some fresh blood in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
This has been great.